the best place to clear the signal, okay? So basically you want to start to look at, we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff in later videos as well, but I'm just going to give you some overviews here. Energetic maintenance, which is basically starting to clear all of the, I guess, the overload, okay? Because this antenna, so think of yourself like a tube, okay? So you're almost like a cup, all right? And depending on what you're picking up energetically, okay, this can actually start to get filled up or overflowed, okay? And sometimes people are interpreting that as anxiety because they're getting some signals that are mostly around the heart chakra, and they're getting anxiety and they're starting to feel heart palpitations and that type of thing because their cup is starting to become too overloaded and they need to discard it, release it. I know with me, sometimes I'll get into certain even time frames within the month, within the year, where I have to just start journaling or writing because if I don't, I'm just too energetically amped and I can't do my work or I can't function properly, so I need to release this. Now, a lot of times, there's great techniques on releasing where you can actually go into the environment. So the environment, that's why you see a lot of gurus, teachers, talking about nature. So when we're in the natural state or the natural environment, okay, it's actually picking out a signal of 7.83 megahertz. Actually, hertz, sorry. 7.83 hertz. That's the actual hum of the planet. They call it the shamanic resonance. So the hum of the planet is where you're grounding. So this is a grounding frequency. When we get into a lot of the Wi-Fi, cell phones, the stuff in the environment, it actually pushes us up to more about over 14 hertz, which is more of an agitation. It's actually too much information, too fast. And if you even notice too, even with the way the technology's rolling, a lot of the stuff in the environment, so it's like you just don't have enough hours in the day. There's just too much stuff going on. There's too much stuff that is constantly at you, especially if you've got family and kids, and this is where the stress component starts to come in. So the stress part of it is more over here, okay? So stress is over here. The feeling component is wanting to feel good and get rid of this bad part of it. So the brain is always looking for wants, needs, and desires. So it's always doing this forward motion, okay? So it's always going this way, and then we're always pushing away pain. I don't want to deal with that. I don't need to. There's too much of that. I gotta start to, prioritize, okay? And that's where the brain will start. So we're going back and forth all the time, and when we start to see the two frequencies that are here, okay, so we're in a duality, which is a positive and negative frequency, so that's yes, no, right, wrong, good or bad. So we're pushing off these two poles, okay, so we're getting bombarded on one side and the other side, and it's all based on how you're protecting yourself. Now, you can use a lot of different techniques for this. There's great crystals out there, shungite, tourmaline. There's another one out there. There's pendants, biopendants that can actually test them for the actual muscle tests within the body. Even use your own body as a pendulum, where I do this with some of my healing techniques, where I'll just, when I'm on the table with a client, is that I can actually feel my body move in a certain direction, yes, no, that type of thing, where I'm actually feeling the frequency and my body will move in a different way. So that's the way that I'm interpreting it. Now, just the way that I'm interpreting it doesn't mean that's the way that you're going to interpret, but that's another technique that you can use that you start to practice. So practicing, knowing what are your thoughts and what are the thoughts within the environment that you're picking up. So you're able to see things based on your actual image, okay? When I'm teaching students, I can tell you, you've got the different clairs, clairsentient, clairaudient, and they've got the feeling one. So feeling the frequency, a lot of people will either have one or two of these different ways of interpreting the information. So the image and then the feeling, okay? So the feeling is very key. Now, a lot of times what we're putting into our body is to actually shut off that feeling. So that feeling, if you're heavily using drugs, alcohol, could be stuff within the environment where you're too more on the left side, which is the stress component, where you just can't feel, right? You're just numbed right out. A lot of antidepressants do that. They actually just numb out the actual feeling frequency in order for you to just stay zero. So that's the place of no feeling, basically. But what the problem is that when you come off of those, you start to drop more into the bad zone because you actually start to neutralize. Okay, so you're now into that 0 point. So it starts to drop lower because you've shut it off for so long, and then you got to start to bring yourself back. So Nature itself is the natural state. That's, that's where we came from. We're coming from nature. And then now we have two worlds here, basically. We have the natural state, and then we also have the synthetic state, which is very similar to, we've got cell phones